Hey everyone, how's it going? So, welcome to part 2 of my ultimate beginner's guide to chess. Part 1 looked at the pieces and how they move. Today I thought we'd look at a rule that some people find a little bit confusing at first, and that's castling. Once you get the hang of it, it's super simple, and it's a really powerful tool. So, let's just jump right into it. Now, what is castling, I hear you keenly ask? Well, castling is where you take your king and you take your rook and you kind of do a little flip between them. And what this does is it gets your king to safety, nice in the corner here, protected by these pawns, and it brings your rook out into action. Now there's two ways that you can castle. You can go this way and do a short castle, or you go this way and you do what's known as a long castle. And let's see the difference between the two. So the way to think of it is your king always moves 2 squares to one side and your rook comes to the other side. So 1, 2, and then your rook flips over to there. And you can see your king is nice and safe in the corner. This side's the short castle. And if you look up here, going this way would be the short castle. A long castle, exactly the same principle. So 1, 2 to the side, and then the rook will end up on the opposite side. So 1, 2, hey, there we are, we've just done a long castle. But it's not quite as simple as that. There's a few things that can stop you from castling, so let's have a little look at them. So the first rule, you can't castle if there's something in the way. So you can see right here, we've got a little horsey just chilling out, minding his own business, but unfortunately he's in between the king and the rook. And if you try to castle that way, you can't, because he's blocking the way. But as you can see, there's nothing on this side for the long castle, so we can 1, 2 to that side, and there we are. King's nice and safe, rook's now in play. The next rule is, you can't castle when someone puts you in check. So for example, we take our bishop and just shimmy it across here to the b5 square, popping black in check. Black's like, oh, I need to get out of the way, and tries to castle. And oh no, they can't. You can see by clicking on them, they can only move 1 space either side to get out of the way. Because, like I say, you can't castle while you're in check. Pretty straightforward so far. Alright, so a couple more examples here. We have the black king to move, and he wants to get out of the way of all this that's going on. And he wants to castle. So, looking at the short castle, he'd be moving to there, and the rook would be moving to there. But you can't do it. And why is that? Well, we have this bishop coming across here. Now, if the king was going to end up there, he'd be moving into check. And that's one thing you always need to remember. You can't castle if you're moving into that check there. But Shaky Chess, why can't he castle to the other side on the long castle? Well, we have this guy here, this rook. And you can't castle through a check either. So you have to imagine that the king is actually moving those 1, 2 spaces. He'd be moving through the check there. So he's blocking off the way, and we can't castle either side. Basically, all the king can do from here is to just shimmy across to here. And the last rule to remember is you can't castle if the pieces have moved. That's the king and the rook. So for example, we have this game here. Let's just say white moves his king to here for whatever reason. Black does this. White goes back. Black does this. And white is like, right, I might castle now. Uh-oh. And you see that you can't, because if we go back, white moved the king. If the king has moved at all, he can't castle. Castling has to be his very first move. But it's not just the king. So whose move is it? It's white. White does that. Like I say, it's not just the king. Black's king hasn't moved yet, so he can castle either direction he wants currently. But let's just say black moves his rook. White does this, and black's like, right, I want to castle now. He now can't castle to that side. However, this rook hasn't yet moved. The king hasn't yet moved, so they can castle on the long side. And the king's nice and safe there. Like I say, it has to be the very first move that those 2 pieces have made. Now, why do we castle? Like I said at the very start, what you want to be doing is getting your king nice and safe and getting your rook into action. So you can see on the black side here, the king has castled to the short side, and they have all these pawns protecting them. Horsey's back, got it nice and safe, and the rook is now in action. Now the white side, the king's kinda just hanging out in the middle of nowhere here, and we want to get him nice and safe. And now the piece is moved, nothing's blocking the way, so king can either castle to the short side or the long side. In here, I'd probably go on the long side, just to keep him nice and snug and away. And yeah, like I say, we have the rooks now doubled up, both rooks are in play, and the king's nice and safe back here, defended by all of this going on. Another thing you can use it for is for attack. Now, castling on the long side, if you remember, the king moves 1-2 that way, and the rook ends up here. So you can see black's king just hanging out in the middle of nowhere there. We castle to the long side, and we've now just put their king in check. Not as often you get to do it, but it's always worth remembering, just so you can stay on the attack and you're putting pressure on all the time. And another thing is doubling up the rooks. Like I say, rooks work best together when they're doubled up. So you can see the queen here is coming and attacking this rook. Well, if we castle to the long side, king's nice and safe, and we've doubled up these rooks. Queen now can't attack here, because if takes, then we just take. And this is the power of the two rooks together. Really good for defending each other and getting on a really solid attack there. And this concludes part 2 of my ultimate beginner's guide to chess. Hopefully you found it a bit useful and castling isn't quite so much of a mystery. Go out, give it a go, and yeah, just play some chess. I'll catch you guys later. Hey!